For the next 3 days, I invite you to become the master of your own mind. Not someday, not when it's convenient, but now. Because every great success story begins with one decision: to take command of thought. The average person speaks to themselves with doubt, criticism, and fear. But you are not average. You are capable of more. And your transformation begins with the words you plant into your subconscious mind. So for the next 3 days, talk to yourself with intention. Upon waking, declare this: today, I am clear, focused, and in control of my path. Say it like you mean it. Say it until your nervous system believes it, because the moment you believe something fully and emotionally, you begin to attract its reality. Throughout the day, replace self-doubt with self-command. Say, I am disciplined. I am calm. I am capable of achieving what I set my mind to. The law of autosuggestion tells us that any idea, plan, or purpose held in the mind repeatedly and backed with emotion will eventually influence both your conscious and subconscious actions. So speak with emotion. Speak as if your future depends on it, because it does. At night, before sleep, do not let the day's worries be the last words you speak internally. Instead, repeat, I am proud of who I am becoming. I release what I can't control. I sleep with peace, and I wake with purpose. Your subconscious never sleeps. It works on the instructions you give it while you rest. Feed it fear, and it will multiply fear. Feed it strength, and it will build a foundation that no external force can shake. Talk to yourself with authority, with confidence, not as a victim, but as a creator. Because for 3 days, you are not allowed to think small. You are not allowed to wish. You must intend. You are not allowed to doubt. You must declare. This is not magic. This is mental discipline. What you say to yourself, you believe. What you believe, you act upon. And what you act upon becomes your reality. 3 days of intentional self-talk will plant the seed. Water it with repetition. Feed it with belief. Watch it grow into character, into results, into the life you've been capable of all along. Remember, the world outside will always reflect the world you've built inside. Build it strong. Speak it into existence. Now, begin. Every great transformation begins with a seed planted in the mind. An idea repeated with conviction, spoken not casually, but with purpose. This is the principle of autosuggestion, speaking to oneself in a deliberate way to influence thought, behavior, and ultimately, outcomes. Most people underestimate the quiet power of the words they whisper to themselves, but the truth is, these repeated words shape not only how we feel, but also how we act and what we attract. For years, many walk through life thinking their circumstances are random, unaware that their internal dialogue is scripting every chapter. When you say to yourself, I can't, I'm tired, or it's too hard, your subconscious listens. It doesn't argue, it obeys. And so, over time, your reality bends to match those beliefs. But when you begin to say, I am capable, I am focused, I am strong, something within you begins to shift. This is not about empty affirmations. It's about repeated truth, said with intention and emotion. You don't merely speak words, you imprint them. The mind is fertile ground. Whatever you plant, it grows. If you plant doubt, you harvest hesitation. If you plant courage, you reap action. This is why autosuggestion is not just a habit, it is a discipline. The power lies in repetition and emotional intensity. Speaking once may not change a thing, but speaking again and again with feeling creates a new groove in the brain. It forms a mental path that becomes easier to walk every day. Think of it as training a muscle. You don't lift once and become strong. You train with consistency. Your words are weights for the mind. In just 3 days of focused, intentional self-talk, you begin to shift your mental framework. You start the process of becoming the architect of your own thought patterns. And as those patterns change, your decisions follow. Your actions improve. Your results evolve. And it all starts with something so simple yet so powerful, the voice in your head. This practice requires no audience, no applause, only a quiet room and your willingness to speak words that align with your highest self. The ones who succeed are not those who are merely talented or lucky. They are those who have trained their minds to believe in possibility, to command fear, and to speak with purpose long before the results arrive. Because long before success shows up in your life, it shows up in your language. The human mind operates on a simple but powerful principle. What is repeated becomes reality. Whether you are aware of it or not, the words you say to yourself daily are not harmless. They are instructions to your subconscious mind. They shape your self-impued, your beliefs, and eventually, the actions you take in the world. This is why self-talk is not just psychological fluff. It is one of the most practical and potent tools for personal transformation. When you tell yourself, "I am not good enough," "this always happens to me," or "I never succeed," your mind doesn't question it. It accepts it. It processes those statements as truth, not opinion. Over time, these beliefs become embedded into your mental framework, and your behavior begins to reflect them. You act in alignment with what you believe to be true about yourself. The tragedy is that many never realize they are repeating these negative affirmations every day, unconsciously reinforcing a cycle of self-sabotage. Now imagine flipping that internal narrative. Imagine replacing every doubtful thought with intention, saying instead, "I am becoming more confident every day. I learn from every challenge," or "I am worthy of success." These aren't just nice words. They are commands to your subconscious. When said with repetition and conviction, they begin to overwrite old beliefs. The mind responds not to the volume of your voice, but to the consistency of your message and the emotion you attach to it. Words are seeds, and just like any seed, what you plant, you will eventually harvest. If you consistently speak with faith in yourself, even when you don't see the results immediately, you begin to build belief. Belief becomes behavior. Behavior becomes identity. This is not a one-time event, it's a process where your inner voice begins to align with your desired reality. The beauty of this practice is its simplicity. You don't need special tools or ideal conditions. All you need is a few honest moments each day to speak powerfully to yourself, not as you are, but as you aim to become. When you do this for even 3 days, the shift begins. It may be subtle, but it's real. You start standing taller, thinking clearer, and choosing differently. Because your internal world has started to change, and your external world will always follow. You don't have to wait for others to believe in you. You only have to believe in the voice inside you, the one you've been training with every word. 3 days might seem like a short span of time, but when used with clear intention, it can become the catalyst for deep mental rewiring. The human mind is not static. It's adaptable, impressionable, and constantly reshaped by the inputs it receives. And one of the most powerful inputs is the language you use with yourself. When you consciously choose the words you speak inwardly for just 3 days, you begin to interrupt the automatic, often negative patterns that have been running for years. Think of your self-talk as the programming of a system. Most people go through life operating on scripts they didn't write, scripts inherited from fear, failure, past mistakes, or external criticism. These scripts repeat silently, reinforcing limitations. "I'll never be good enough. I always mess things up. This is just who I am." Over time, they become the default responses of the subconscious. But these scripts are not permanent. They can be rewritten, and the process begins with conscious, repetitive language. For 3 days, speak to yourself in the language of who you are becoming, not who you were or even who you are right now. This is not about denial of reality, but about choosing a higher one. Say things like, "I lead my life with purpose. My thoughts are focused and directed. I am capable of mastering any challenge." When you do this multiple times a day, especially with emotion and focus, you start shifting the lens through which your mind views the world, and more importantly, how it views you. What's important to understand is that your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is vividly imagined. So when you speak words of strength, confidence, and vision to yourself with clarity and repetition, your mind begins to believe that this is the new normal. Once belief starts to take root, behavior follows. You walk differently, you think differently. You make decisions with more authority and less fear. This process isn't just motivational, it's neurological. You're carving new neural pathways. You're weakening the hold of self-defeating patterns and creating room for empowering beliefs to grow. And while permanent change takes time and repetition, 3 days of focused, intentional self-talk can act as the spark. It's enough to interrupt the old loop and begin a new one. Enough to remind your mind that it works for you, not the other way around. The practice is simple, yet transformative. Choose your words with care. Speak them often, and do so as if your future depends on it, because in many ways it does. The voice inside your mind is the most powerful influence in your life. It shapes your decisions, your emotions, your confidence, and ultimately your results. Yet most people allow this voice to drift, untrained, unmanaged, and influenced by fear, comparison, or past failures. Left on its own, the inner dialogue often reflects the noise of the world rather than the vision of the individual. But the truth is, your inner voice can and must be directed like a discipline. It must be governed with intention, or it will be governed by habit. When you leave your internal dialogue unchecked, it replays the limiting beliefs that others have placed upon you. It echoes doubts from your childhood, failures from your past, and criticisms from people who didn't know your worth. This is why taking control of your self-talk is not a luxury, it's a necessity. If your thoughts are steering the course of your life, then steering your thoughts must be your highest responsibility. Training your inner voice starts with awareness. Begin to listen to the words you say to yourself when you fail, when you're afraid, or when you're alone. Are they building you up or breaking you down? Would you speak those same words to someone you love? If not, they have no place in your mind. Your thoughts should be your allies, not your enemies. They should coach you, not condemn you. Once you become aware, the next step is direction. You must teach your mind what to think. Just as a body becomes strong through repeated movement, a mind becomes powerful through repeated truth. Speak to yourself the way a leader would speak to their team, with clarity, purpose, and belief. Declare your vision, affirm your strength. Remind yourself that fear is a visitor, not a resident. This is not a one-time event, it's a daily practice for 3 days. Discipline yourself to speak only what aligns with your goals. When you hear doubt, replace it with certainty. When fear arises, respond with courage. When fatigue whispers, answer with resilience. This practice is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about refusing to let your thoughts sabotage your potential. Your mind will follow the direction it is most consistently given. If you give it thoughts of strength, focus, and purpose, it will begin to reflect those qualities in your actions. But if you let it wander, it will drift back into limitation. The choice is yours. Let your inner voice lead you, or let it limit you. Speak wisely, because your life is listening. You've spent 3 days speaking differently to yourself. You've practiced replacing doubt with direction, fear with faith, and old habits with new affirmations. Now comes the part that truly matters, the continuation of that change. Because the words you speak to yourself are not just for 3 days, they are for life. This wasn't an experiment in wishful thinking, it was an introduction to a lifelong discipline. What you've started is the process of becoming the architect of your own reality. By talking to yourself with intention, you've interrupted patterns that may have been running for years. You've disrupted the voice that told you you weren't enough. You've planted seeds of power, clarity, and confidence, and even if the world hasn't changed in these 3 days, you have. You've seen what it feels like to lead your thoughts rather than follow them. You've seen the difference that conscious, repeated language can make in your energy, your posture, and your focus. Now, the question is not whether you can do it, but whether you will continue, because this discipline is not about perfection. You will still have moments of doubt, lapses of fear, and days where old thoughts resurface. That's normal. Growth is not a straight line. But you now have the tools to course correct. You know what to do. You've experienced the impact of speaking truth into your life, of confronting your excuses, and of treating your inner voice not as a critic, but as a coach. Don't let this be a phase. Let it be a foundation. Build upon it daily, even 5 minutes in the morning. A few sentences before a challenge or a calm reminder before sleep can anchor your mind in strength. Your internal environment is the soil of every dream you hope to realize. If it is nurtured with purpose, no circumstance, no criticism, and no failure can stop what's growing within you. Understand this. Your thoughts will never stop speaking, but now you have a choice in what they say. You can choose to speak power into your path, to affirm the identity you're building, and to reject the limiting labels of the past. Every successful person, every resilient soul, every visionary began by mastering the one conversation they have more than any other, the one with themselves. So take what you've learned over these 3 days and make it a way of life. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for validation. You already have the voice you need. Use it, shape it, speak it until it becomes your new truth. Because the future you are building starts with the words you say when no one else is listening. That voice is yours. Make it your greatest ally.